Welcome back, friends. Last session we talked about IMC as a strategic tool, and we saw so many examples, very enduring examples, lively examples of how IMC follows the strategy of an organization or follows a product all through, and how strategically it is imbibed into what product is desiring for itself, or an organization is desiring or defining for itself. Now let me focus on IMC strategy. What kind of a strategic orientation we should be having in terms of integrated marketing communication, or structuring or designing integrated marketing communication. And here I have to mention time and again that up till now we have built up how to look at integrated marketing communication, and now onwards we slowly would be moving on to understanding different modes. We will talk about media planning. We have mentioned types of budgets also. We have tried to understand how to budget, how to look at budget actually. So this we will elaborate in due course of time, and we will revisit whatever we are discussing here in this session. But at this juncture I want you to think in terms of how to orient ourselves strategically towards structuring integrated marketing communication. And again, the most basic and important point is identification of the appropriate target audience, right audience. And I start this kind of a discussion with my audience always, asking them a question, that you are designing a communication for a product for an infant. So definitely your audience is the parents of that infant. But when that infant becomes a child, who is your audience? Both of them, just the child, or only the parents? Now it becomes slightly difficult. Now when that child actually grows further, do you still have parents as your audience? In many cases you would find that, but then it keeps on reducing. But then after a particular stage, again in many cases, in cases of services and products, it comes back. For example, at the time of a student going to college, or at the time he is deciding upon college, or at the time he is deciding upon his first coaching institution, or online education program, or whatsoever, then also the family or the person who has to pay for that comes into the picture. So that is where deciding appropriate target audience, and that we have talked about earlier as well, that who is our customer. So the characteristics of the customer and XYZ. So we have mentioned that precisely, but here this question should accompany that thought process wherein we have a target customer in our picture, but then target audience, and that is one of the most important parts one must remember. Read about this further and try and imagine, whom do you want to address? Who is going to be the user? That definitely is the question there, and that definitely is the focal point there. For example, people say the advertisements related to pets are also directed towards pets in many countries, because pets, they watch television along with their owners and so on. So you have read this, you know this. In case of hospitals, you are targeting patients or their caretakers as audience. In case of geriatric medicines, you are targeting their caretakers or the people themselves. In case of medicines, you are definitely targeting doctors. And the integrated marketing communication by pharmaceutical companies focuses upon the doctors, because they prescribe the medicines. But in case of over the counter drugs or medicines, you definitely think in different terms. But then also you have some influencer in mind while constituting the message. So see, largely it is a very important question, because once you are structuring that, once you are creating that, once you are deciding upon the modes and the media, you have to consider these kind of things. Then comes in, how do they decide upon brands? Now, this question of target customer and audience, goes along. So, how do they decide upon? If the customer and the audience are different, if they influence each other, if he is the or she is the same person, how do they decide? So, we have talked about this, we have talked about consumer behavior a lot, we have talked about the psychological perspective, we have talked about the sociological perspective and so on. But then we must realize how they categorically go for brand decisions. And then step 3 is to establish how the brand will be positioned within its marketing communication and select a benefit to support that particular position, because the consistency has to be there. If you have said something about some product or service or an organization, you have to live by that actually, because now you are going by that, and it is not just by default that you are going by that, you have decided to go by that. So, you must live by that actually. So, that positioning is a very important kind of a thing, and there are very good books on positioning which you must read and understand. Then definitely communication objectives, and we have talked about objective setting earlier. So, you can visit that video and session and then come back to this. And then the step is identify appropriate media options consistent with the communication. How to reach to the customer in terms of modes. Should you start from FM and go to television, or you should not go to television at all? Should you start from newspaper and go to hoardings and not go to hoardings at all? And should you start from internet and remain with the internet digital communication only, or you should not go for anything basically? What do you require? Very interestingly, I was talking to a very famous food shop in a city, and I happened to mention in front of the owner that why shouldn't you be advertising through internet modes, or let us say digital marketing, which would not be so costly in this era, and you should be making your presence felt all over and so on, and why don't go for mass media as well, in terms of if you want to call television and newspaper as mass media, although internet is also a mass media now. But again then, and he kept on listening to me, he is very famous food joint, and then he took me to one of the floors wherein he had his photographs with all the movie stars all around, and he said that, do I require any advertising basically? People know me, whosoever visits this city comes to the shop, they already know about me. I am mentioned in movies, so many Indian movies actually, they know my name. You see, you have those kind of products and services and organizations which do not feel that they must go for using any form of integrated marketing communication, but then they are using word of mouth communication anyways, and they have generated this to develop that kind of communication. They feel that they are using the products as the mode of their popularity, but no, the product actually generated a communication whichever way, in terms of news items on them, or let us say movies, but they do not know how to structuralize that, and that is where strategic perspective of integrated marketing communication comes in. If you get to know how to structuralize that, you might end up going for expansion of business basically, if you want to someday. If somehow market forces are not actually accompanying you the way they have been, so definitely you would like to go for expanding and going to different markets. So, that is where integrated marketing communication strategy would come to your rescue. Now, I will use 3 very important examples from our own experiments, and I will spend few minutes to elaborate upon these examples. I, along with my colleagues, a very suitably large group of learned scientists and economists and engineers, technocrats and field experts and people from bureaucracy as well. We thought of developing pine needles as a source of energy. I will not go into that story, that is a success story now, but and I might be coming back to it later on, but to go further into that, you can visit the website of National Mission for Himalayan Studies and you would find a success story by IIT Roorkee there, and you will find that what we have done in that project, that is doing good, and that may be expanded in due course of time if the supporting organizations wish for that, and they are seriously thinking on that. But during that time when we were developing pine needles as a mode of energy, household energy in terms of cooking, heating and further usage, even for electricity or small scale electric generation, electricity generation. So, at that time, because we developed the technology for compressing those pine needles locally without the usage of any electricity, complete manual kind of a setup and very easy to handle and so on. So, technology was in place and we put up that small machine for several kinds of users in Himalayas. Those users, they came up with another product. So, they utilized local grass which has medicinal value also, and it is more or less a waste. So, they utilized that grass for compressing it and using it as a mosquito repellent, which is known for its properties like that, and that is good for in terms of fragrance, and it has a good effect on your environment and good for health also, they say. So, it has medicinal value associated with that. So, these users, they innovated upon, they compressed that grass and started using it as a mosquito repellent and then started selling it in the local areas. One of the team members, he realized the value of this kind of a thing and he discussed this with some professionals and then he named it as forest fragrance. They created a beautiful box wherein you can see those briquettes inside packed in that box, it is transparent from the upper side, and they also inserted a matchbox there, a candle and a very beautifully cut iron stand wherein you can put that briquette, and they started lighting those briquettes all around for demonstration in the hill station areas wherein tourists from all the sides they come and larger numbers. Definitely tourists started asking about what is it's all about, it's a beautiful fragrance, and then they started telling them that these are mosquito repellents and the fragrance is good and it's not so costly, box of 150 200 grams is 100 rupees and so, and it started selling like anything basically. You see, that idea got converted into a name, that name got a place on a packaging, that packaging was used as a display item, then that packet was also displayed in several hotel reception areas wherein tourists they definitely spend some time when they check in, while checking out also, whole of the family is there if you are coming with a family or friends, and there you find this fragrance. You are definitely intrigued, you ask about it, you get to know about it, it is beneficial, and if you do not find it beneficial in the first place, you definitely find it harmless because it has a proven value associated with that, and in due course of time when you use, you find that it is useful, it is effective. And that is how forest fragrance started flying off the shelf. Believe me, this came in suddenly, and that innovation came in from the side of the users and flew like a process which we have been referring to as integrated marketing communication. Now they are seriously thinking in terms of putting it in newspapers also. Television coverages were done on that. Several local television channels covered this kind of a product, and word of mouth started flowing in. And then they started putting it up on the entry points of the hill stations, where cars they come in, they wait for a while to check in inside the city, and they started displaying those small posters there, and along with some selling outlets or points of purchases there, and it has started working well. It is selling in large numbers, a good substantial suitable numbers. Second example is Gharat Organics. This is a new experiment which we are doing. Again, along with my colleagues, we initiated a process in Himalayas wherein we put up small machines to process turmeric and other locally grown plant based produce of common usage, and we put up those machines to facilitate the process there, to facilitate the traditional practices which are associated for processing and marketing those products, just to give an impetus to those products in terms of production, because lots of produce was getting wasted because production facilities were not there. So, we focused upon facilitation of production. But again, the local partners who have been associated with us there, they improvised upon several locally available plant based commonly used products to convert them into different products and brand them. So, recently one of our associates who is associated with us from that side as a beneficiary, he actually initiated a brand called Kharat Organics, wherein another project which we are doing along with my colleagues, we have I along with several of my colleagues who are again scientists, engineers, people from bureaucracy, and our team of young technocrats, we have put up processing machines in Himalayas to facilitate the local produce in terms of several plants, for example turmeric, for example ginger, common plants having off the shelf value as well, which have been sold as raw material up till this time, and lots of produce has been getting wasted because there were not ample production facilities there. We went there, it is a long story, we analyzed, Government of India supported us, Department of Biotechnology, and then we initiated this project and put up some machines there. Then our partners, associates over there, they started processing or utilizing those machines for processing several locally available plant produce, and that actually enhanced the flow of their sales. But the most important thing which I want to share with you here is that one of the enterprising partners from that side, the beneficiary, is a young person who is educated, has gone through several jobs, has come back to Himalayas to serve his state and the local region, and he initiated a brand called Gharat Organics. Now, Gharat Organics is related to a name called Gharat. Gharat is a place wherein there is a flowing water, wherein the energy of that water, the flow of that water is utilized for generating electricity or for other purposes like processing turmeric and ginger and so on, and even local grains, converting those into atta or flour. Now, this person, he actually named it after Gharat because it is locally known place basically. So many people from all the sides, they gathered together to utilize those facilities. That is why, you know, it's a part of the culture over there, it's a part of the local region over there, and it has its own connotation and value. And it is known by people all around as well. Many people all around, especially, you know, people who understand Hindi language, they know about this. People who have visited these places in Himalayas, they know about this. So, he, to put up, you know, an originality and to put up an association with the origin, he named it as Gharat Organics, and we are supporting that effort. Now, this group, supported by us and Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, they basically are developing several products. So, giving them the context of Himalayas, the purity associated with the products, the purity associated with, you know, their approach in growing those plants and so on, the environment, everything, while resonating it with the name of the brand they are projecting and taking it to people, you know, they are creating an integrated marketing communication strategy. So, starting from developing a name, projecting it through packaging, and then, you know, internet or digital media, and now expanding it towards several modes, including local television and radio and so on, and then taking it pinpointedly and precisely to the customer through specific communication with the customers. It has started working. So, you see, that is where integrated marketing communication strategy comes in. And why I have chosen these two examples, not only because I am directly connected with these two examples, our group is connected, IIT Roorkee is connected with these examples, but also that starting from scratch, we can think of integrated marketing communication strategy. So, it's not always that you have to spend lots of money for releasing advertisements and going to people all around. It is wherein you initiate a product, a process, and along with the capacity you are developing, you develop relevant communication. So, the cost would accompany the scale which you are developing in your production, and it also not gives the wrong idea to the prospective customer that you are expanding. So, you go and you develop the demand along with the communication, communication along with the demand and so on, and then after a particular stage you are there and people are asking for you. Now, Java motorcycle and Royal Enfield, here IMC strategy is related to rejuvenating two of the products which slept for a while, I should say, and organizations wanted these products to come back. They initiated the effort, they did not change the look of the product, some technological changes or some product changes technically definitely to meet the concurrent technological development and the production processes might have been done. I would not comment on that, but originality has been maintained, and this originality, this aspect of what they were, their original positioning, that particular position, that positioning is being carried forward through their present integrated marketing communication. As you can see, I would not specifically take you there by pointing out at messages which they are releasing, but just go to the websites, just go to the advertisements they have released, just pass by their showrooms and you would realize what I am speaking of. So, they have rejuvenated. So, repositioning and rejuvenation by putting up strong IMC strategy, that is what we are referring to at this particular kind of a moment. And then I will take you to some more examples, and here I would play some tunes also, just to entertain you a bit and take you to again the thought of IMC strategy. And when I play this tune, you would immediately remember that where have you heard it, when have you heard it, where have you seen these products, and then this IMC strategy comes into being. Steps we have seen earlier, just watch and enjoy.
इस मुहावरे का अर्थ है किसी को हरा देना, जैसे कि पतंजलि दंत कांति टूथपेस्ट ने सारे विदेशी कंपनियों के टूथपेस्ट के दांत खट्टे कर दिए सर।
इसीलिए पतंजलि दंत कांति बन गया है करोड़ों देशवासियों का भरोसेमंद हर्बल टूथपेस्ट, जिसमें है लौंग, अकरकरा, नीम, टुमरू, बबूल, गोलशीरी जैसे लाभकारी जड़ी बूटियां, दांतों को दे लंबी उम्र का वरदान।
The next one.
I like to teach the world to sing, sing with me. Harmony, harmony, I like to buy the world and keep it company. I like to teach the world.
Do you remember? Yes, you do. Now, let's hear the next one.
Mountain Dew. डर के आगे जीत है.
You see, very specific element which is not only carrying itself along with the growth of this product, but you at this moment you would be visualizing where all you have read this, heard this, seen this, and that is precisely what IMC strategy is actually.
यहाँ खुशबू है उत्साह की, उत्सव की, रंगों की, कलाकारी की। खुशबू है गुजरात की। आपने कच्छ नहीं देखा तो कुछ नहीं देखा। कुछ दिन तो गुजारो गुजरात में।
I mentioned about this earlier as well. कुछ दिन तो गुजारो गुजरात में. This has made a lot of difference. This campaign you would have seen in newspapers and on television. Definitely it was a large campaign there. Internet media, it has definitely had a long presence and large presence in digital media and so on. So a beautiful campaign which has definitely made an impact, a huge impact as far as Gujarat tourism goes. And there are several other tourism campaigns. The tourism campaigns definitely I must mention here are beautiful, attractive, and you keep on just visiting just tourism campaigns and you would realize that lots of creativity is associated with that. So, Rajasthan tourism is there, Madhya Pradesh tourism is there, Kerala tourism is there, I have mentioned about it earlier, Northeast tourism is there, Himachal tourism is there, Uttar Pradesh tourism is there, and lot many other states, they have gone for beautiful campaigns actually. So, just watch for them, and suddenly you will find some reports along while watching these campaigns, while surfing for those, you will find some reports which will specifically mention how well they have made a difference as well. And then you see, you will again rejuvenate the thought of IMC as a strategic tool and IMC strategy as such. So, I will leave you with this, and having established the two sides of association of IMC with strategy, the perspective wherein we have to look into IMC strategy itself and IMC as a tool for strategy, we will go for role of integrated marketing communication in development of a brand now onwards for a short while, and we will come back to that later on as well, and probably in a different subject as well later on. But here I will leave you with this kind of a thought. Keep watching lots of campaigns and lots of advertisements. Integrated marketing communication is mesmerizing. Goodbye for now. See you next time.